I want you to think about the last time you went to the grocery store. How many children did you see on devices like a cell phone or a tablet? Maybe they were just sitting in the basket, watching YouTube or playing Candy Crush. The last time I went to the grocery store, I counted 20 children on either cell phones or tablets, and many of those children looked to be under the age of 7. We live in a world where we are bombarded by devices like this. Cell phones, tablets, iPads, smart TVs, gaming systems like PlayStation 4s, Xbox 1s, DVDs in the car. I literally have a watch that connects to my cell phone and lets me know when I have a call, text message, or social media alert. As an adult, sometimes I feel overwhelmed by this. Now imagine being a child. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, children from the ages of 6 through their teenage years should receive consistent guided limitations on their screen time. Children between the ages of 2 to 5 should have 1 hour of high quality programming, and children under the age of 2 should have no screen time at all. Want to take a guess what the average American 2-year-old gets as far as screen time goes? Anybody? 5 hours of screen time a day. 5 hours. Many people are thinking, what's the big deal? The kids are entertained, the parents have peace and quiet. But what they don't know is that too much screen time can cause serious growth and developmental delays. That is why I strongly believe that screen time should be limited for children. In my research, I've discovered that too much screen time causes developmental delays, a rise in behavioral issues, and life-changing problems within the brain. First, let's go over developmental delays that are caused by too much screen time. Many people are unaware that before we learn academically, we actually learn developmentally. There are 5 developmental domains. There's language, how we talk; cognitive, how we think; our gross motor, that is how we move and control our bodies; socially, our social domain is how we interact and feel about other people; and emotional, that's how we feel inside. All of these areas of development impact and interact with each other. All of these areas of development are grown through impactful sensory experiences and the modeling of behavior from those around us. So when we put a child in front of a screen, we are depriving them of those impactful sensory experiences. We are literally putting them in front of something 2-dimensional. This impacts their areas of development. For example, we have 128 students in our early childhood program. Of those 128 students, 56 are receiving speech and language therapy. That's 44% of our children. When I talked to our speech and language therapist about this, she said that the first question she asked parents, how much screen time do your children get? Almost all of these children are receiving 5 to 7 hours of screen time a day. This is playing on a tablet, playing a video game, watching television, 5 to 7 hours. That's almost a full workday for most people. And as I mentioned earlier, if one area of development is impacted, another area of development is going to be impacted. So our children that are experiencing these speech delays are also experiencing social delays. That's because other kids can't understand what they're saying. And when they experience these social delays because they can't play with other kids because the kids can't understand what they're saying, they begin to experience emotional delays as well. Because there's feelings of frustration and isolation, this means that there's going to be a rise of behavioral issues. So now I'd like to discuss how too much screen time impacts behavior in children. I've heard the arguments that having technology can produce better problem-solving skills, that it makes us feel valued and keeps us socially connected, that programs like Doc McStuffins teach children lifelong impactful lessons. I even had one mom say, it gives me peace for my kid and gives my kid peace for me. Well, all of that may be true, but humans are social creatures. We need to feel and connect and experience and touch and hear other humans. So when a child sits in front of a screen, They're being deprived of this socialness. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics and Psychology today, children who experience too much screen time begin to have behavioral issues, such as not being able to connect with other children, not paying attention, not understanding what other children are trying to communicate to them. They start to have a higher aggressive behaviors, such as bullying tendencies. And as children get older into their preteens and teenage years, these types of behaviors begin to pose mental health risks. Teenagers and preteens who experience too much screen time begin to show links of suicidal tendencies, depression, anger, and self-harm, such as cutting themselves. This is because the brain itself, as I mentioned earlier, is being impacted in a negative way. Much of our brain's growth and development happens between the ages of 3 to 5 years old. We continue to develop and grow our brains as we get older, though not as much. So when a child is exposed to too much screen time, the way their brain is growing is literally changing. For instance, they may experience a condition known as gray matter atrophy. This is a literal shrinkage of the brain. The brain is literally getting smaller. The areas impacted by this are the frontal lobe. This controls impulse and planning, the striatum, which is our reward pathways, and the insula, which controls our empathy for others. There's also been a huge decrease in the way the left and right hemispheres of the brain are interacting and communicating with each other. Thus, once again, negatively impacting things like impulse control. And when things like impulse control are being impacted in a negative way, because the brain is literally shrinking, we begin to see a higher risk and rise in things like suicide amongst kids and teens, and kids doing self-harm challenges like eating Tide Pods. While there are impacts to screen time, positive impacts such as learning things new things quicker, or experiencing, quality family time, like watching a movie together. There are too many negative impacts of letting children have too much screen time. Developmental delays, as I mentioned, behavioral issues, and literal brain damage are all negative, life-altering impacts of too much screen time. Albert Einstein has said, "It has become appallingly obvious that our technology has exceeded our humanity." That being said, the world has never been more at our fingertips. We want to give our children the best and brightest futures. We have all of these great things, like cell phones that have more capability than many computers. But when we are allowing our children to sit on an iPad for 8 hours a day, or giving them these cell phones to keep them quiet at the grocery store, are we really helping them? The short answer is no. We're literally causing brain damage in our children. So think about that before you turn on a television or give a kid your cell phone.